This house came with a shoe rack and I hate it. Not because it's broken, but because it doesn't belong here. This is our lake house rental. It's a place to slow down, put away your phone, and enjoy the view. And yet, the first thing you see when you walk in is this cheap, falling apart dollar store special. The problem is I don't normally design for spaces like this. My style is a bit more modern and sculptural, but this lake house has a different vibe. Weathered cottagecore, nautical, and nostalgic. So instead of fighting it, I'm adapting my style. This is probably the simplest piece of furniture I've made in a long time, but somehow the hardest to design. Today, I am building a shoe rack that can withstand the lake life, but I'm also using it as an excuse to play with some art, because without a challenge, there is no point. And like most of my adventures, this one starts off with me picking out some wood at KenCraft. And this video is brought to us by Squarespace. KenCraft is local to me here in Toledo, Ohio, but they do sell online and ship nationwide. They are a family-run business and just all around great people. We are back from KenCraft with some beautiful mahogany. These boards need to be 13 inches wide, so I planed them down, jointed them, and now we are going to glue them together. There we go. So we're just gonna let that sit and dry for an hour or so. It has been an hour. Take off these clamps and see what we got here. Our boards are ready, so I went ahead and printed out a full-size template of what we need to cut. And since I'm a normal person, I don't have a printer big enough, so we had to tile it out. So I got to piece this all together. I went ahead and cut a straight edge on my template so I can line that with the straight edge of my board here. And then we're just going to go cut this out over at the bandsaw. I'm a fancy dude with a fancy drill press. The cool thing about this guy is I can set a depth stop. You can set a depth stop on a lot of drill presses, but what this one does is the drill bit stops spinning and then reverses so you could back out of the cut. So that's the first side. So now it's just rinse and repeat. I got this rubber mat because shoes at the lake are gonna be wet. So this whole thing is gonna sit on this rubber mat and it perfectly fits in there. The shelf is actually going to be electrical conduit that's gonna run between these two pieces. So we're gonna head over to Home Depot and go pick some up. Stuff is cheap, super cheap. So we have our electrical conduit cut down to size. The problem is this is like 0.71 inches. I don't have a 0.71 inch drill bit. So there's two ways to go about this. In the past, what I've done is I've kind of sanded a taper on there and then take a hacksaw and you cut it this way and you cut it this way about a 1/2 inch down, and then you can pound it into the hole. Careful. The other way, the way I'm gonna do it this time is I'm gonna develop one of these. Is this a bushing, a flange? I'm not sure. But you drill a hole that's too big into this piece, this fits into there, and then this fits into there, and we have a perfect fit. So in Fusion 360, I whipped this guy up real quick and then sent it over to the 3D printer. Took about an hour, and here we go. So before we glue the conduit into place, on the one side is where I'm gonna have some fun and add some artwork. So I drew this up in Adobe Illustrator, and typically I would cut this out with the laser or the CNC, but today we're gonna do it the hard way, and I'm gonna cut it out by hand on the scroll saw. And I'm gonna be okay, I'm telling myself right now that I'm gonna be okay if it's not perfect. It's supposed to look handmade. So I'm gonna try to get all these pieces to interlock and fit together. And I think if it comes out really shitty, I might shitify it even more by adding some dings and some texture to it. So let's just give it a shot. Rule 4, consider everything an experiment. For these marquetry pieces, I'm gonna take some of this leftover mahogany and thin it down here on the bandsaw. You don't always need a fence when resawing. Or if you don't have a scroll saw, go ahead and use your laser. Now I am just going to paint everything with some acrylic paints. I'm trying to get the yellow orange that I'm looking for, so I'm mixing a couple together. I think basically what I'm going for is baby shit yellow and less of an earwax yellow. What I loved about the previous camera people was they would laugh at my jokes. No! New camera guy does not laugh. I think I'm gonna like the brush strokes in there. It's going to give it that handmade feel and take away some of the digital laserness. We accidentally used the laser. We didn't mean to use the laser, but it was an accident. Ugh. I don't know why I gotta make the sound effect. So while I'm painting all these little pieces, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Squarespace. A lot of my work happens just like this, slowly, piece by piece, and figuring things out as I go. And I want a place where that kind of work can live without me having to overthink it. And that's why I've used Squarespace for so long, for 11 years now. And I used to be a professional web developer, and then I just decided I don't want to make websites anymore. I want to focus on creative stuff. And that is where Squarespace comes in. I started using Squarespace long before they were a sponsor. I don't want to manage a website. I don't want to mess with plugins and updates and hosting. I just want something clean, simple, and reliable, where my work is the focus. Whether it's a portfolio, a shop, or just a place to document projects like this, Squarespace gives you a space that's actually yours, not something borrowed from the algorithm. The templates already look great, and I can tweak colors, layout, and structure without breaking anything, which is kind of like how I work in general. If you're a maker, artist, or creative and you want a home for your work that you actually control, Squarespace is a great place to start. You can try it for free at squarespace.com, and when you're ready to launch, visit squarespace.com/makesomething to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. All right, it's time to start piecing this together. So all the paint is dry. This is going into our lake house rental, and it came with a bunch of art and signs that has kind of like that worn out rustic feel. Not something I typically do, but I want everything to match. So I'm gonna take my sander I was seriously worried about ruining the pieces, but it actually looks pretty good. It has that worn, rustic, cabin-like feel. Again, it is not my style, but it's slowly becoming my style since I have a place full of this shit. Some of the pieces have warped a little bit because we got it wet only on one side with the paint. You could wet the other side to keep it from potato chipping, but because we're gonna throw this in a vacuum bag, it ain't gonna matter. So I'm basically just gonna piece this together like a puzzle. It looks like it belongs in a Pier 1 Imports. We're gonna flip this over. That is gonna go in there. And then we turn on the back. This will sit in here for about an hour. It's how long it takes the glue to dry. And then we can move on to the next step. The vacuum press is one of my favorite tools. I think all of my tools are my favorite tools. I've got like 10 tools in my top 3 favorite tools. All right, it has been an hour. Ah, that's a good sound right there. And look at that. Look at that. That looks amazing. You can't see it, but it looks amazing. All right, this is looking fantastic. So now we can glue all of this up. I mixed up some 2-part Toledo epoxy. I need the strongest bond that I can get since there are no actual wood-to-wood joints for the structure of the shoe bench. It's not like it needs a whole lot of stability, but I just want to put myself in a good winning position. So we're gonna brush this in the inside here. I also haven't told you that I already epoxied the bottom. This is one of those situations where it works best when you only do one side at a time. Okay. So if I flip this upside down and just let that dry like that, we should be good. We are back at the lake house. This is made to withstand the abuse of having renters, although our wall is not, but we got painters and drywall people coming in a few weeks. I'm very happy with the way this came out, but there's one little mistake that I'll talk about here in a second. Typically, I finish all of my projects with my homemade finish that I only sell to my Patreon people, but this time, because it's gonna get hit with wet shoes and a wet mop and vacuum, it needs to take a little bit more abuse, so I needed something with a little bit more protection, so I use some heavy-duty polyurethane. I will upload the SVG of the artwork here to my Patreon members so you can do whatever you want with that. If you are new here, I'm trying to focus more on creativity and the creative process. If that sounds interesting to you, like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. I'm gonna put together a playlist of all the projects here at the lake house so you can watch the progression. There's only a couple videos right now, but we got a lot more coming. I would like to thank my top Patreon members this month, and that's Glenn Rogers, X2 Crafted Chaos, Jason Ramos, Chris from Hoffman Woodworks, Ron from Gnomeworks, Jim from Wiserbees, Jeremy Johnstone, Andy from P10 Workshop, Letters to Words, and Jonathan Ransom. I've only got one spot left on that top list. So the mistake that I was talking about is I designed the depth of this based on the previous shoe rack. And it turns out I can't comfortably get 3 shoes wide unless they're slightly stacked. I wanted to leave some room behind for umbrellas, and I have that, but I really wish I would have made it just 1 inch deeper. That's what I get for trusting the dollar store crap. As always, be safe, have fun, stay passionate, and make something.